Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
What if the version of you right now isn't the real you? What if staying the same is actually stealing the future you deserve? And what if today you had the power to change it all by letting go of who you're not? You have a choice to make today, a real one. You can keep dragging around the weaker version of yourself, the one that hides behind excuses, clings to fear, and gives up just when things get hard. Or you can finally set it down, leave it behind for good. That weaker self has no place in the extraordinary life you were meant to live. And deep down, you know it. Because if you don't let go of it, it will keep pulling you back like an anchor chained to your growth. But if you confront it, if you're brave enough to kill it now, you open the door to something greater. Real strength, unshakable confidence, true freedom. This is your time, right now. Don't let it slip away by playing small. In just a few moments, you're going to learn how to break free from the grip of weakness and step fully into the powerful life that's waiting for you. A life that belongs to the real you. You're not finished yet. Maybe you've come to believe that who you are today is your final form, that this is as far as you'll go. But let me tell you, that belief, it's a lie, a tragic one. Life never asked you to freeze. It asked you to grow, to stretch, to transform. Growth isn't reserved for the talented or the lucky. It's a sacred duty, a responsibility to yourself and to those who will follow after you. So where do you begin? You begin by admitting something simple but life-changing. The weaker version of you is not the real you. It's just a shadow, a timid echo against the roaring fire of your true potential. Imagine an acorn that refuses to become an oak tree. What a waste of purpose. You're not the acorn. You're the oak. And every day you stay stuck, every day you play it safe, you rob yourself of the beauty of becoming who you truly are. Your comfort zone may look soft, even safe, but it's a well-decorated prison. A cage made of routine, fear, and familiar outcomes. Let this be the day you choose growth over comfort. Wishing you strength, joy, and courage on your journey. And don't forget to subscribe to Mindset Daily for more powerful insights to help you rise. That comfort zone you've been living in, it promises safety, but it quietly delivers something far less fulfilling. Mediocrity. True growth never happens in ease. It unfolds at the very edges of discomfort, where your courage is forced to rise and face the unknown. That's where transformation begins. Because when you dare to move beyond what you thought were your limits, you realize those limits were never real. They were simply invisible walls built by fear. Boundaries not of your true ability, but of what fear convinced you to believe. Think back to when you first learned how to walk. You fell over and over again. Skin knees, tears, frustration. But did you ever once decide that walking just wasn't for you? Of course not. That fearless persistence, the kind only a child knows, is still inside you. It didn't disappear with time. It just got buried beneath doubt. But here's the truth. Your potential hasn't faded. It hasn't run out. In fact, it's grown. With every mistake, every setback, every hard-won victory, you've gained wisdom, perspective, and resilience. Challenges aren't just obstacles. They're tools. And failure? It teaches in ways success never can. The universe is not done with you. Your story is still unfolding. There are powerful chapters waiting to be written. Talents within you still untouched. Impacts you haven't yet made. Can you feel it? That restlessness in your soul? That's your future calling. To settle now would be to walk away from all that possibility. Would you close a book halfway through, knowing the most epic parts are yet to come? Look around at nature. Nothing in creation stands still. Rivers cut through solid rock. Tiny seeds split open pavement. Dying stars explode just to give birth to new galaxies. Everything is in motion. Everything evolves. You're no different. You weren't meant to remain the same. So silence the voice that says you've peaked. Push aside the lie that whispers, this is enough. Instead, embrace this powerful truth. Your best, boldest, most brilliant self still lies ahead. And ask yourself, what dream did you once abandon? What skill did you once nurture, then forget? What truth have you been too afraid to face? These aren't just passing thoughts. They are guideposts, signs pointing you toward your next great transformation. This is your invitation to evolve. Stay strong, stay inspired, and remember to subscribe to Mindset Daily for more powerful guidance on your journey. Wishing you health, happiness, and the courage to grow into everything you're meant to be. So pause for a moment and ask yourself, is this how you want your story to end? Will you go through life and meet the end as a faded version of who you were meant to be? Or will you rise, fueled by the fire of transformation, and become the masterpiece you were born to become? The choice, my friend, is yours. Entirely. No one else can decide for you. But here's something you must never forget. You are not finished. Not even close. Excuses, they're not just thoughts. They're chains. Heavy ones. Over time, you've laid down excuse after excuse like bricks, building grand walls to protect the weaker version of yourself. A fortress, not of strength, but of fear. But ask yourself, can a fortress made of fear ever protect a soul that was born to conquer? Excuses are seductive. They speak in a comforting tone. They say, not today, maybe tomorrow. I'm just not ready. And worse, they wear the mask of wisdom. They pretend to be reasonable, even protective. But in truth, they are thieves. Thieves that steal your energy, your time, and ultimately, your destiny. And the only way to defeat them? Action. You must destroy that fortress, one act of courage at a time. With the hammer of decisive movement, tear down those walls. Each time you hear that quiet voice of hesitation, respond by moving forward. Act in defiance. Take the step you fear. Speak the words you've been holding back. Do the thing that makes your heart race. Because those excuses, they promise comfort, but deliver nothing but stagnation. They say they're shielding you, but really, they're keeping you small. And the mind? It's clever. It spins these excuses into what sound like logic. You say, I'll start when everything's right. But the perfect time? It never shows up. Life doesn't wait for conditions to align. It waits for you to decide. Each excuse is another link in the chain. You say, I don't have time, and soon it becomes a lifestyle, not a moment. You say, I don't know the right people, and that becomes a wall instead of a challenge to overcome. You say, I'm too old, or I'm too young, forgetting that greatness has no age limit. These are not facts. They're boundaries you've accepted, but they're not real. Let this be the moment you break free. Wishing you courage, clarity, and the power to rise beyond every excuse. And don't forget to subscribe to Mindset Daily for more wisdom to fuel your transformation. Stay strong and keep growing. Think about it. How many dreams have been quietly buried in the graveyard of someday? How many lives are spent in silent desperation? Not because of failure, but because excuses were welcomed instead of confronted. The real tragedy isn't falling short. It's never trying at all because you've convinced yourself it's not worth the risk. Benjamin Franklin, a man far from perfect, didn't hide from his weaknesses. Instead, he faced them head on. He created a personal system of virtues and held himself to them with daily discipline. He didn't wait for the perfect day. He didn't say, not today. He chose to build greatness today and again tomorrow and the day after that. He understood something most overlook. True excellence isn't the product of rare bursts of motivation. It's the result of consistent, committed action day in and day out. That's the key. Your freedom doesn't lie in avoiding failure. It lies in destroying the excuses that keep you from even starting. Because if you don't destroy them, they'll quietly destroy you. They'll sound reasonable. They'll feel safe. But they are fear dressed in logic. When a voice of resistance starts whispering, recognize it for what it is. It's not truth. It's fear, disguised, pretending to be caution. And right when you feel that hesitation, right when your body tenses and your mind wavers, that's the very moment when action becomes most powerful. Every champion, every innovator, every world changer you've ever admired, they've all faced the same resistance you feel now. The difference? They didn't make deals with their excuses. They didn't wait for conditions to be perfect. They didn't pause until they felt 100% ready. They moved forward anyway, because the most dangerous excuses aren't the loud, obvious ones. They're the quiet, polished ones, the ones that sound responsible. I'll start once I've learned more. I'll begin when I've saved enough. I just need to prepare a little longer. But let's be honest, those are delays. And life doesn't stop while you stall. It moves on, with or without you. So challenge yourself. Just for one day, live with zero excuses. No delays. No justifications. No hesitation. You might be surprised by how differently you think when "I can't" disappears from your vocabulary. Watch how quickly your decisions shift. Watch how your courage grows the moment you stop accepting limits and start questioning them. Excuses are like chains, tightening slowly, silently, day after day, until one day, you look up and realize you can't move. And by then, it's not just about loosening a few links. It takes something bold, not a gentle release, but a decisive shattering. Don't let excuses write your story. Choose bold action and reclaim your power. Wishing you strength, progress, and purpose on your path. And remember to subscribe to Mindset Daily for more wisdom to keep you moving forward. So here it is, the bold declaration that could change everything. From this moment forward, results matter more than reasons. Look within. Be honest. What excuse have you been protecting and nurturing as if it were the truth? What story have you been telling yourself over and over again to justify staying small? Are you brave enough to cut that story at the root and rise victorious without it? Whatever the justification may be, however polished, however convincing, it's time to call it out. Name it, face it, and then demolish it. Because no excuse, no matter how reasonable it sounds, is worth sacrificing your potential. Your greatness? It's not lost. It's waiting just beyond the wall of "I can't." Your destiny? It's there too, but it only begins to unfold when you stop explaining and start executing. The chains holding you back? You forged them. But the key to freedom? It's already in your hands. Comfort, it feels sweet. Familiar, but it's deceptive. It wraps around you like a soft cuff, and while you sleep inside it, your potential fades. Comfort is a poison that disguises itself as peace. It feels like honey, but acts like venom. That weaker version of you is addicted to comfort. But the real you, the one you were meant to be, was built for something greater. Built for battle. Built for breakthrough. You weren't designed to stay safe. You were born to conquer. And every single step you take outside your comfort zone is a direct blow to the weakness inside you. But how do you start? How do you break the habit of retreating to what's easy? Start small. Wake up and take that cold shower. Speak the truth in that awkward conversation. Run just one more mile beyond what you thought was your limit. Do one thing today that makes you squirm with discomfort, then do it again tomorrow. Because that place of discomfort, that's where greatness lives. The human spirit was never meant to sit still. Look at the giants of history. Those who left their mark across generations. They didn't find greatness by resting in routine. They didn't hide in ease. They fought. They pushed. They clawed their way forward, often bleeding, often doubted, but never retreating. They sacrificed comfort for progress. They embraced the fire. And like the muscles in your body, your character will not grow stronger unless it feels the burn of resistance. Keep stretching. Keep rising. Greatness is earned, not given. And as always, I wish you strength, clarity, and relentless purpose. Don't forget to subscribe to Mindset Daily. The journey forward starts right here. Your mind cannot expand unless it's stretched by challenge. So why do we believe that character, something far deeper, can somehow grow while resting in ease? It can't. Growth never happens on the couch of comfort. Comfort whispers seductive lies. It tells you, you've earned a break. Take it easy. Why push harder when you can just coast? These words sound kind, even deserved. But behind their softness lies a bitter truth. What you're really choosing, moment by moment, is slow decay. Nature does not tolerate neutrality. There is no safe middle. You're either evolving or eroding, moving forward or falling back. That's the unshakable law of life. And think about this. Your ancestors didn't have the luxury of comfort. They fought off predators, endured brutal winters, braved uncharted oceans, and laid the foundation for civilizations, all while embracing discomfort as the cost of survival. So when you cling to comfort, what are you really doing? You're dishonoring their sacrifice. You're squandering the resilient DNA they passed down to you through struggle, pain, and persistence. Take Thomas Edison. He failed not once, not 10 times, but thousands of times. And yet he persisted. He didn't choose comfort. He didn't crawl in a bed with excuses. He kept showing up. And eventually, he lit the world. Now imagine if he had stopped at failure number 100. Or 1,000. Imagine if he had said, "This is too hard. Maybe it's just not for me." How much longer would the world have waited for light? Now ask yourself, how many gifts are you keeping from the world because you're unwilling to endure temporary pain? The coffin of comfort has many chambers. It looks innocent at first. The extra hour of sleep that dulls your sharpness. The soft conversation that avoids the hard truth. The skipped effort. The small avoidance. Each one seems harmless on its own. But together, they slowly seal you in. They preserve your potential in a kind of living death. Not because you weren't capable, but because you chose ease over effort, comfort over calling. So ask yourself today, are you living or are you just resting in a padded version of decline? Wishing you relentless drive, clarity of purpose, and the strength to rise. And remember, subscribe to Mindset Daily for more fuel to keep you moving forward. Your best is still ahead. You may be physically present, but are you spiritually awake? Or are you merely drifting, alive in body but dormant in spirit? It's time to break free. Feel the rush that comes from choosing hardship voluntarily. There's something electric about stepping into discomfort on purpose. It reclaims your power. It proves that you, not your environment, are in control. That cold shower you dread each morning, it becomes your first victory of the day. That difficult conversation you keep avoiding, it becomes the bridge to a stronger, more authentic connection. That final mile, when every muscle screams for relief, becomes the evidence of your unbreakable will. Comfort gives birth to a life filled with regrets. What if? If only. But discomfort? Discomfort writes a very different story. I became. One is haunted by potential. The other is fulfilled by purpose. So ask yourself, what narrative are you choosing to write? What legacy are you building right now, even as you breathe? The pages of your story remain unwritten. They're waiting for your next move. And history has already taught us the truth. Every significant breakthrough, every advancement in art, science, technology, philosophy was born from discomfort. Someone, somewhere looked at the status quo and said, "This is not enough." And they decided to act. They endured mockery. They failed. Repeatedly. They worked while others rested. They stayed the course when quitting looked like the rational thing to do. And you? Will you trade a legacy of greatness for a moment of ease? Will you let discipline die just to preserve a little comfort? When you lay your head on the pillow tonight, ask yourself, did I kill a weakness today? Or did I hide in the fading warmth of good enough? Your legacy is not built in the distant future. It's built now, in moments just like this. And it demands an answer. Because in the end, the coffin of comfort awaits us all. That part is certain. But until that day comes, live so fiercely, strive so relentlessly, and embrace discomfort so completely that when death arrives, it pauses in respect. Not for someone who practiced dying, but for someone who truly lived. Fully, boldly, without apology. Desire without discipline is dead. Yes, you want to achieve, but do you choose to pay the price? And so do millions. Millions who desire, who dream, who wish. But desire alone, no matter how intense, will never be your savior. At best, it's the spark. But without discipline, that spark fades fast, like a match flickering out in a gust of wind. The stronger version of you? It doesn't live in fleeting desire. It lives in daily discipline. Because discipline is what shows up when the excitement is gone. It's what pulls you out of bed when every part of you begs for rest. It's the force that remains steady when motivation has long since disappeared. So how do you build discipline? How do you make it stick? Start small. Anchor those tiny daily wins to your deepest dreams. Don't chase intensity. Chase consistency. Learn to celebrate the doing, not just the outcome. Because the graveyard of potential is filled with brilliant minds. People who started strong, eyes burning with fire, hearts pounding with promise, yet vanished the moment the flame dimmed. They trusted passion alone. And passion, while beautiful, is also temporary. Desire is like a lover. It excites. It inspires. It makes your heart race. But discipline? Discipline is the partner that stays. The one that shows up when the days are cold and the nights feel long. The one who walks with you through the winters of progress. Yes, you need both. But only one will carry you through when everything else fades. Desire shifts with the wind. One day it's fierce. The next, forgotten. It rises with a motivational video, a stirring speech, a glimpse of someone else's highlight reel. And then, like a wave, it crashes. But discipline? Discipline is unmoved. Unshaken. It keeps going when emotions quit. It keeps moving when every part of you wants to stop. It's the quiet force that whispers, keep showing up. And here's the truth. The world rewards consistency above all else. Average effort, applied daily, will always outperform bursts of brilliance applied occasionally. The writer who commits to 1 page a day will finish volumes. The genius who waits for inspiration may never start at all. The athlete who trains in the shadows, when no one's watching, will always outlast the gifted one who shows up only when it's convenient. Think of George Washington, frozen, weary, crossing the Delaware River. He didn't do it because he felt like it. He did it because he was disciplined. That moment didn't just change a battle, it helped shape a nation. History does not honor those who merely felt deeply. It remembers those who acted consistently, relentlessly, even when no one was watching. Especially when no one was watching. Understand this unshakable truth. Motivation is unreliable. It's the fair weather friend of achievement, present when the skies are clear, but nowhere to be found when the storm hits. If you try to build your future on motivation, you're constructing a castle on quicksand. It might look solid from the outside, but the foundation will give way the moment life gets heavy. Discipline, that's the bedrock, the stone beneath the monuments that stand for centuries. The myth of overnight success has misled more dreamers than failure ever has. Because behind every sudden breakthrough, behind every meteoric rise, are thousands of hours you never see. The musician who seems to have come out of nowhere, they spent 10 years practicing alone, in forgotten corners with no applause. The entrepreneur who suddenly found success, they walked through years of failure, adjustments, and invisible grind. You can't ride waves of motivation and expect to arrive at greatness. Waves crash, they vanish, but a solid foundation, that endures. Let others chase feelings. You chase consistency. Let others wait for the perfect moment. You create momentum, even when the skies are gray. Discipline begins in the smallest places. The alarm clock answered without hesitation. The silent promise you make to yourself and actually keep. The workout completed when no one is watching. The temptation resisted, even when indulgence seems earned. Every small win, it's a brick. And brick by brick, you build a structure that will carry your greatness. The undisciplined mind will argue with itself. It will negotiate. It will present well-crafted justifications for quitting. I'm tired today. I've been good lately. I deserve a break. This one exception won't matter. It will point to stress, to chaos, to exhaustion, convincing you that today's commitment can wait. But the disciplined mind, it sees those same challenges. It acknowledges them, but it doesn't bow to them. It chooses to act anyway. Because here's the deeper truth. Your biology is wired to seek comfort. Ease. Instant gratification. It's normal to want rest. It's human to crave pleasure. But the difference between the ordinary and the extraordinary lies in this very moment. The moment where you choose to override your instincts in service of something greater. So ask yourself today, are your actions anchored to unshakable commitment, or are they still chained to passing moods? The answer will tell you everything. It will show you which version of yourself you're building, and which one still needs to be buried for good. Desire will show you the direction, but only discipline can take you there. Dreams without deadlines? They're just fantasies. Ambition without consistent action? That's wishful thinking. Vision without execution? It's not vision at all. It's delusion, dressed up like purpose. If you want your desires to become destiny, you must build your life on something stronger than fleeting inspiration. You must build on the solid, tested bedrock of discipline. Because it's discipline, not emotion, that transforms potential into legacy. And to do that, something drastic must happen. You must fire the old manager of your mind. For too long, your mental space has been run by fear, laziness, and doubt. These are poor leaders, weak advisors. They've bankrupted greater people than you. They've sabotaged genius, silenced bold ideas, and destroyed futures before they even had a chance to start. If a business fails under bad leadership, what happens? The leadership is replaced. So why should your mind be any different? How do you do it? Begin with an audit. Start paying attention. Examine every thought. If it doesn't serve your vision, remove it. Replace it with a voice of belief, of strength, of determination. Plant powerful thoughts like seeds in your mental soil. Water them daily with action. Starve the weeds of doubt by refusing to give them attention. Understand this. The mind you live in today, this internal landscape, it wasn't built by you alone. It was shaped by others, by parents who passed on their fears, by teachers who limited your thinking, by peers who projected their insecurities, and by a society that profits from your uncertainty. You've been operating with inherited programming, mental software that you never chose. And that programming runs silently in the background, influencing decisions, suppressing courage, and stalling growth. But here's the truth. Every thought that crosses your mind carries weight. It either builds you up or breaks you down. There is no such thing as neutral thinking. Each internal message either pulls you closer to greatness or quietly drags you toward mediocrity. And yet, how casually we allow these thoughts to run wild. How passively we let them set up shop in the most sacred space we own, our minds. Your thoughts aren't just ideas floating in your mind. They create chemical reactions in your body. Real, measurable physical shifts. Doubt releases cortisol, the stress hormone, which quietly chips away at your strength and resilience. But confidence? Confidence activates dopamine and serotonin, the chemicals of motivation, focus, and emotional strength. This isn't mystical philosophy. It's biological fact. So understand, when you allow that old mental manager to remain in control, it's not just misleading you. It's poisoning you, slowly, while pretending to protect you. That resignation letter, it must be written with finality. No parting gifts, no severance packages, no consulting roles, and absolutely no occasional visits. These old managers, fear, self-doubt, laziness, must be permanently removed from their positions of influence. Their constant whispering, "You can't," "You shouldn't," "What will they think?" has no place in your new administration. Think of Abraham Lincoln, a man who battled doubt every single day. Yet he fortified his mind like a fortress of hope. His greatest victories weren't just in politics or war. They were internal, private, silent. He faced rejection, defeat, and overwhelming darkness. But he refused to let those experiences write the script of his mind. He didn't let despair rent space in his thoughts. He evicted it. And in its place, he built the foundations of resilience and purpose. Your new mental management must be just as vigilant. Old thoughts will creep back. They'll disguise themselves as reason. They'll try to convince you to slip back into comfort, into patterns that feel safe but sabotage progress. Just like a garden left alone returns to weeds, your mind, if unguarded, will drift back to limitation. But here's the difference between temporary success and lasting transformation: vigilance. When you catch yourself thinking the old way, don't spiral into guilt. Don't waste time beating yourself up. Simply notice it, name it, then remove it. escort that thought to the door, and immediately replace it with something stronger. I can't do this becomes I'm finding a way. This is impossible shifts to this is difficult, but solvable. I always fail transforms into I improve with every attempt. This is the daily work, the real work. So now look within, honestly. What old managers are still sitting behind the desk in your mental boardroom? Are they still making decisions for you? Are you letting fear bankrupt your dreams? Or will you finally fire the cowards and hire courage as your new CEO? Because the battle for your destiny isn't fought on stages or in stadiums. It begins in the quiet, unseen corridors of your mind, where no one watches but you. Restructuring your inner world may be the hardest thing you ever do. It will require you to confront comfortable lies and replace them with uncomfortable truths. It will demand your focus when you're exhausted and your discipline when distraction feels easier. But understand this. No amount of external success will ever make up for an internal collapse. Your mind is the soil. What you plant there, you will harvest sooner or later. Every belief, every thought, every internal dialogue takes root. And eventually, it bears fruit. That's why you must choose what you plant with great care. Because your future isn't some distant mystery. It's already standing by, quietly waiting to be born from the seeds you're sowing today. The world you'll live in tomorrow is being cultivated in the garden of your thoughts right now. The old mental managers, the ones you've recently fired, promised you safety. But what they actually delivered was confinement. They kept you small, silent, caged. The new leadership, the one built on vision, belief, and discipline, makes no grand promises. But what it offers is far more powerful possibility. And when you commit to it fully, it delivers nothing less than freedom. And here's a truth you must take to heart. You are not your failures. That weaker version of yourself, the one you've been shedding, clings tightly to past failures like they're trophies. But failure isn't something to worship. It's not even something to fear. It's simply tuition. It's the price you pay for growth, for wisdom, for strength. You are not the sum of your mistakes. You're the sum of what you decide to do with them, what you choose to become afterward. That's what defines you. So how do you begin to sever ties with that outdated identity? Start here. Celebrate the lessons, not the wounds. The human mind has a dangerous habit. It fixates. It attaches emotion to memory and replays it again and again until repetition becomes identity. I failed morphs into I am a failure. And that small, almost invisible shift in language builds a prison, one more confining than steel bars. A prison where the walls are made of perception and the locks are forged in self-judgment. Your past mistakes, those moments of blurred judgment, failed efforts, missed marks, they are events, not essence. They are not the truth of who you are. They are data, not destiny. Information, not identity. This isn't just a motivational idea. This is a mindset shift that sets you free. Think about it. How absurd would it be to define an entire mountain range by one cracked stone? Or to label an entire ocean by a single wave that crashed and faded? Yet that's what we do when we allow a single failure to define us. And yet, how easily, how willingly we reduce our vast, complex, limitless selves to nothing more than our lowest moments. A bad decision, a painful failure, a season of disappointment. We take those isolated instances and let them define us, while ignoring the immeasurable potential still waiting within. But consider this, Henry Ford, a man who went bankrupt multiple times before ever building the empire we now associate with his name. Each fall, it didn't break him. It taught him. It refined him. It shaped him into someone stronger, more determined, more unstoppable than before. Does history remember his bankruptcies? Or does it remember the industrial revolution he sparked? The system of mass production that changed the world? His failures weren't obstacles to success. They were the building blocks of it. Essential, unavoidable, necessary. That's the paradox of greatness. Failure is often the foundation on which real achievement is built. The master? He didn't arrive without scars. He became a master by failing more times than the novice has even dared to try. Innovation, the kind that truly moves the world forward, is born not from instant success, but from graveyards of trial and error, from the ruins of what didn't work. And the kind of confidence that inspires others, that unshakable presence people admire, it wasn't born from perfection. It was forged in the furnace of past inadequacies, confronted and conquered. So remember this: failure is only fatal to those who surrender. The moment you give up your will, your drive, your vision, that's when failure becomes permanent. But if you reflect, if you learn, then that failure becomes one of the most valuable things you'll ever own. Because failure without reflection is wasted pain. But failure with reflection, that's education you couldn't buy with any amount of money. That's wisdom earned through experience. So the question is not if you'll fail. If you're pursuing anything worthwhile, anything that stretches you, challenges you, or matters, you will fail. That's not in doubt. The real question is this: will you extract the full value from it? Each time you revisit your past, pause and ask yourself, am I staring at graves or stepping stones? Am I performing an autopsy on what went wrong? Or am I mining for treasure in what I've lived through? Because here's the truth: the same experience, seen through a different lens, creates an entirely different reality. You get to choose that lens. Will you look through the eyes of shame or through the perspective of growth? Your weaker self mourns setbacks. It fixates on the pain. It replays the moment you stumbled over and over until it becomes your identity. But your stronger self, it looks deeper. It digs. It mines those very same setbacks for gold, for insight, for direction, for strength. The weak self asks, why did this happen to me? The strong self asks, how can this serve me? The weak self looks for sympathy. The strong self looks for strategy. And whichever one you feed with your focus, that's the one that grows. That's the one that shapes your future. The path to redemption doesn't start with getting approval from others. It begins when you finally extend forgiveness to yourself. Let go of the grip of perfectionism, the mindset that says failure makes you unworthy. Instead, embrace the humility that failure brings. The kind of humility that doesn't shrink you, but teaches you, guides you, shapes you into something wiser. Know this: your worst mistake isn't the end of your story. It's not a period. It's a comma, a pause, not a conclusion, in a greater narrative still unfolding. So let me ask you, what if every mistake you've made was setting you up for your greatest masterpiece? What if the depths of your darkest falls were necessary to lift you to the height of your future rise? What if the very pain you've walked through is what qualifies you to help others find the light? You are not your failures. You are who you choose to become because of them. Identity, it's not something you stumble upon. It's something you decide. Stop waiting to find yourself, as if the real you is lost somewhere in a distant cave, waiting to be discovered. That's a myth. Identity isn't hidden treasure. It's not buried beneath circumstances. It's something you build day by day, brick by brick, with your choices, your habits, your actions. Too many of us wander through life like explorers with no map, hoping to somehow bump into our authentic self. But you don't need to find yourself. You need to create yourself. We wait. We wait for clarity, for epiphanies that rarely come. We wait for someone else to define us, or for life to somehow shape us into something significant. But that passive approach, it leaves our potential untouched. It wastes precious years adrift in doubt, in uncertainty, in hesitation. Identity isn't something you stumble upon. It's not buried treasure waiting in the sands of time. It's something you forge. The people who live extraordinary lives, the ones who seem to move with purpose and power, they didn't just find who they were. They chose who they would become, with deliberate intention, with clarity. Then they aligned every choice, every action, every habit to match that decision. Because they understood a truth many overlook. You become what you consistently do. So where do you begin? Start by writing your own declaration, not of independence, but of intention. A personal manifesto. Decide who will you be, what values will shape your life, what virtues will you live by, what skills will you master, what kind of impact do you want to leave behind. This isn't wishful thinking. It's architectural planning. You're not fantasizing. You're drafting blueprints for your future self. Read that declaration daily. Speak it aloud until it sinks into your bones. Let it fuse with your identity until the line between who you are and who you're becoming disappears. Take Helen Keller, born both blind and deaf. Two circumstances that could have easily written her story for her. But she refused to let those conditions define her. Instead, she chose her identity. She declared herself a scholar, a writer, an advocate, and then she lived into it. Her physical limitations didn't shape her reality. Her decision did. Her identity wasn't discovered beneath her disabilities. It was built in defiance of them. And here's the psychological truth. When you act as if you already are the person you aim to become, your nervous system can't tell the difference. Your brain doesn't reject that image, it adapts to it. Eventually, the line between imitation and authenticity dissolves. What once felt like a mask becomes your actual face. What once felt like pretending becomes who you are. But this process, it takes courage to stand and declare, I am this, when all the evidence in your life still says otherwise. That's bold. That feels like lying, like you're claiming a truth you haven't yet earned. But this is where every transformation begins, with a necessary fiction, with a vision that feels premature, but is essential. The marathon runner? They were once gasping for breath after a single mile. That confident speaker you admire, the one who captivates every room, once trembled at the thought of speaking. They weren't born fearless. The transformation came when they made a decision to identify as someone they weren't yet, and then to live like it was already true. Ask yourself this. Will you drift through life like a leaf tossed on the winds of circumstance? Or will you build like a master craftsman, carefully, intentionally, with a blueprint in hand? The first path surrenders your future to chance. The second puts destiny squarely in your hands. Your future self, the person you dream of becoming, isn't shaped by what happens to you. It's shaped by what happens within you, by the quiet decisions you make about who you are and who you are becoming. Every morning presents the same opportunity. Will you reinforce your chosen identity through deliberate action? Or will you slip back into the comfort of your current self, repeating yesterday on autopilot? The space between the person you are today and the person you aspire to become tomorrow. That space can only be crossed by the choices you make today. No shortcuts, no skipping steps. Each small decision either expands your identity or contracts it. Each moment is a vote for who you want to be or who you used to be. So choose the actions that align with your personal declaration, even when it's hard, especially when no one is watching, because those moments, that's where real transformation takes root. Are you ready to stop leaving your destiny to chance? Are you ready to become intentional? Because the moment you stop searching for yourself and start creating yourself, that's when everything changes. That's when your life shifts from accidental to purposeful. Your identity isn't something waiting to be uncovered. It's something waiting to be decided. And pain is not a prison. It's a passage. The weaker version of you fears pain. It recoils. It hides. But pain was never meant to trap you. It was designed to purify you, to strip away what's unnecessary and reveal what's essential. It's the test, the refining fire. The question, are you truly ready for greatness? Most people, they run from discomfort. They spend their lives designing routines and realities that shield them from pain. They treat pain as an enemy to be avoided at all costs. But in doing so, they build their own prisons. Safe, predictable cages where growth is impossible. They don't see that comfort, not pain, is the real jailer. It's comfort that slowly closes the door on potential. But the strongest among us, they understand a deeper, more difficult truth. Pain is not a punishment. It's a pathway. It is the narrow, often uncomfortable corridor through which all true transformation must pass. No one grows meaningfully in the absence of resistance. No breakthrough comes without a breakdown. Think of the butterfly. It doesn't emerge effortlessly. It must struggle inside the chrysalis. That very struggle, those moments of resistance, are what strengthen its wings. Remove the struggle, and you don't help the creature. You destroy it, because without that challenge, it never becomes strong enough to fly. So how do you make pain your ally? You embrace it deliberately. When your muscles ache during a workout, remind yourself, this is the feeling of growth. When rejection stings like salt on an open wound, understand, this is the cost of courage, of showing up. When grief floods your heart, realize, this is the measure of how deeply you have loved. Pain is not happening to you. It is happening for you. And when hardship strikes, try this. Smile, not because it's easy, but because it's shaping you. Then whisper to yourself, this is making me. That simple shift in perspective turns pain from something you endure into something you use. It becomes a tool, a mentor, a messenger, because pain, when viewed through the right lens, isn't your master. It's your teacher, and the lessons it gives about strength, resilience, character can't be learned anywhere else. Consider the Apostle Paul, imprisoned, chained, facing death. And yet, what did he do? He sang. In a cold Roman cell, surrounded by suffering, he found something most people never do, inner freedom. While the walls closed in around him, his spirit expanded. His body may have been bound, but his mind was unshackled. And that is the deeper truth. No matter your external conditions, you can choose how you respond. Your circumstances don't define the quality of your life. Your response does. Yes, pain is inevitable, but suffering? That's optional. Between the stimulus and the response lies a space, a sacred space. And in that space is your power, the power to interpret, to assign meaning, to choose how you will frame what happens to you. Will you curse your trials? Or will you crown them? Will you treat difficulties as punishments? Or as initiations into greater strength, deeper wisdom, and lasting transformation? Every scar you carry, every one of them, can be a medal, a mark of victory, but only if you choose to see it that way. The Japanese art of kintsugi teaches a powerful truth. When pottery breaks, it isn't discarded. It's repaired with gold. The cracks aren't hidden. They're highlighted. And somehow, the damage doesn't diminish the piece. It makes it more valuable, more beautiful. Your wounds can serve the same purpose. When you learn to integrate them into your story, not as reasons for shame, but as sources of strength, they become your most striking features. But it comes down to a choice. Will you view your wounds as reasons to quit? Or will you wear them as badges earned on the battlefield of destiny? Because that choice shapes your future. The former leads to bitterness and blame. The latter leads to wisdom and power. Your hardships are not signs that you're unworthy of success. They are evidence that life is preparing you for it. Pain always asks a question. Will you become bitter or better? Will you let suffering shrink you or shape you? That answer, your answer, decides everything. It determines whether pain becomes your prison or your passage. Remember this. Fire can destroy, but can also refine. The same flame that turns wood to ash also purifies gold. The fire doesn't decide the outcome. The material does. So ask yourself, what kind of person will you be? The one consumed by life's flames, or the one refined by them? Decide today. No more hiding your scars. No more burying your pain. Let every crack become part of your masterpiece. And while we're talking about decisions, here's another one you must make. Dreams without deadlines? They're lifeless. A weak man says someday. A strong man says by this day. If you don't set a date, your dream becomes a ghost, haunting you with what could have been. Goals need oxygen, and that oxygen is urgency. If you want your vision to live, you must breathe life into it by fixing a date and marrying that date with relentless obsession. Because the cemetery of human potential, it's not filled with the untalented. It's not filled with people who lacked opportunity. It's filled with people who waited, who hesitated, who told themselves they'd start soon. It's filled with unwritten books, unlaunched businesses, unfinished transformations. And what killed those dreams? Not fear, not failure, but the quiet, deadly poison of indefinite timing. Someday is the place where dreams go to die. The difference between those who merely dream and those who achieve isn't rooted in the depth of their passion. It's in the clarity of their commitment. Everyone has good intentions, but vague aspirations? They produce vague results. If you say, "I'll lose weight," but you don't set a date, all you've done is make a wish. But when you say, "I will lose 15 pounds by June 1st, you've done something far more powerful. You've written a contract with yourself. And that contract demands action. Now, focus begins with precision. Choose one goal, not 3, not 5, not 10. Because every additional target divides your energy. The more directions you scatter your focus, the less power you give to each one. So choose the one objective, the one that, when achieved, will create the greatest positive ripple effect in your life. Then, set a deadline, one that is bold enough to require your best and realistic enough to stay within your reach. Too soft, and you'll become complacent. Too extreme, and you'll become discouraged. That balance between boldness and realism is where transformation lives. And once that deadline is set, treat it like sacred ground. Move heaven and earth to meet it. Rearrange your schedule. Eliminate what distracts you. Reroute every available resource toward that single aim. Because a deadline without urgency is just a suggestion. But when your level of obsession rises to match the size of your goal, everything changes. Make your deadline so significant, so personal, that to miss it would feel like a betrayal of your truest self. Take Napoleon Bonaparte. His military genius wasn't only in strategy, it was in timing. He didn't drag out his campaigns. He struck swiftly. While his enemies plotted for the long game, Napoleon compressed time. He understood the psychological power of urgency. Compression forces clarity. It sharpens decision-making. It accelerates momentum. Because the longer you wait, the weaker your vision becomes. Delay is the enemy of momentum. And time is no ally to the unfocused. It erodes enthusiasm slowly, silently. Like fire left unattended, motivation dies without fuel. That's why your goals deserve urgency. Because your life is not infinite. Each day that passes is a day you cannot get back. And here's the hard truth. Time does not care about your potential. It does not bend for your good intentions. Time passes with absolute indifference. It doesn't pause for your hesitation, and it certainly doesn't slow down for your unfulfilled ambitions. It moves forward, steady, unbothered. While your dreams either rise with urgency or fade into obscurity. That's why a deadline is more than just a motivational tool. It serves a deeper, more critical function. It transforms abstract aspirations into concrete commitments. It pulls your dream out of the clouds and brings it into the real world, into the workshop where progress actually happens. Because without a time frame, your mind has no clear directive. It can't properly allocate energy. It doesn't know when to push harder or how to track momentum. Without a deadline, the goal floats endlessly in the realm of someday, a vague possibility, never a solid plan. But once you set a deadline, something powerful happens. You create the possibility of failure. And that's not a weakness. It's the hidden power of the deadline. When there's a risk of falling short, you wake up. The tension becomes productive. It drives focus. It sharpens action. On the other hand, indefinite timing, it breeds complacency. It gives you permission to coast. But the pressure of a fast-approaching deadline, that pressure breeds creativity, urgency, and resourcefulness. Suddenly, excuses die, and action takes their place. So let me ask you, what is that one dream you've been putting off? The one you've kept hidden in the someday folder of your life? When will you bring it to life? Not with more wishes, but with blood, with sweat, and with a date circled boldly in red on your calendar. Because that moment is where transformation begins. When you choose a deadline, choose it not as a vague suggestion, but as an unbreakable covenant with your future self. Write it down. Speak out loud. Announce it to someone who will hold you accountable. And then attack each day with intention, with fire, as if that deadline were a matter of life and death. Because in the realm of your highest potential, it is. Your legacy will never be written by the things you meant to do. It will be defined by what you finished, by the goals you claimed, by the days you chose to rise. And here's something else you need to remember. Association is acceleration. The weak version of you thrives in poor company, among complainers, cynics, and cowards. Those who normalize mediocrity. Those who hate discipline because they fear reflection. But you're not called to dwell there, because your environment shapes your momentum. The people you surround yourself with, do they elevate your focus or dilute your drive? Are they pulling you forward or holding you in place? Choose your circle wisely. Choose your date intentionally. And choose your life with purpose. Subscribe to Mindset Daily, because the time to rise is now, not later. And greatness honors those who dare to commit. Who you walk with determines how far and how fast you run. We often underestimate just how deeply our environment shapes us. Like water taking on the form of its container, we slowly begin to reflect the thoughts, beliefs, habits, and attitudes of those we spend the most time with. It happens gradually, almost imperceptibly, until one day you glance in the mirror and barely recognize who you've become. The truth is simple and unchanging. You will never outperform your inner circle. The level of people you consistently engage with sets the boundaries for your own growth. It defines your ceiling and your floor. Surround yourself with mediocrity, and you will produce mediocrity, not by chance, but by mathematical precision. Because proximity influences identity. But the reverse is also true. Excellence attracts excellence. Ambition multiplies in the right company. So seek out mentors. Join communities that challenge your thinking. Align with those who raise the standard simply by how they live. And when you do, when you remove yourself from environments of negativity, stagnation, or excuses, this is not just networking. This is strategic identity formation. Every relationship is an investment. It compounds, either positively or negatively. The people you allow into your orbit either accelerate your growth or drag you toward inertia. Surround yourself with individuals who expect greatness from you. People who won't let you settle, who call you out, who demand the best version of you to show up every single time. Think of Andrew Carnegie. Before he built an empire, he surrounded himself with titans of industry, giants of vision. He didn't wait to become great before he moved into great circles. He understood a truth that many overlook. To build something extraordinary, you must immerse yourself in the world of the extraordinary. He absorbed their thinking, their strategies, their mental frameworks, and in time, their mindset became his own, not by imitation, but by association. Because success leaves clues, and those clues, they're often hidden in plain sight. In the company you keep, your associations are mirrors, quietly reflecting the direction of your future. The conversations you engage in regularly are like roadmaps. They forecast your trajectory more accurately than your intentions. So take a moment, listen, really listen to the dominant themes of your social circle. Are your conversations filled with excuses or with solutions? Are they driven by fear or by vision? Are they shaped by complaints or by creativity? These aren't just casual exchanges. They're signals. They're shaping you in real time. They are programming your subconscious mind, whether you realize it or not. The physics of human development follows a clear and unavoidable law. You'll be shaped by your surroundings. Just as a hot iron placed next to a cold one transfers heat until both reach the same temperature, your energy, your ambition, and your vision will either rise or fall to match the temperature of your environment. This isn't opinion. This isn't theory. It's thermodynamics applied to human potential. Every conversation you have, every room you walk into, every influence you allow, each one is either polishing your purpose or slowly corroding your calling. It happens in the smallest moments. A casual lunch that sparks a breakthrough. A toxic colleague whose comfort with mediocrity begins to dull your standards. A mentor who believes in you more than you believe in yourself, until you start to rise to meet that belief. None of these encounters leave you untouched. They either elevate you or erode you. And this truth demands something hard: decisive separation. Growth often requires stepping away from people, environments, and patterns that, despite history or affection, hold you back from becoming who you're meant to be. This isn't cold-hearted abandonment. It's clear-eyed stewardship of your one irreplaceable life. So ask yourself, who is sharpening your sword? And who is dulling your edge? Who challenges your limits instead of enabling them? Who applauds your courage instead of amplifying your fear? Who lives with such clarity, such purpose, such passion, that just being around them makes you want to rise? Will you climb with eagles or out with pigeons? That choice feels obvious when stated so clearly, yet it's the choice many avoid. Why? Because comfort is tempting. Familiarity is easy. Staying in place feels safe. But every time you choose comfort over challenge, you trade your future potential for present convenience. You forfeit tomorrow's summit for today's safety. And your future? It's shaped by this decision more than any other. Who do you surround yourself with? Choose wisely. Choose with intention. Choose with ambition. Surround yourself with those who've walked the path you aspire to take. People who understand the terrain, who speak the language of excellence, who breathe possibility into every conversation. And just as critically, distance yourself from those who insist your dream is too big, your goals too unrealistic, your path too uncertain. Because they are not commenting on you. They are revealing the limits of their own vision. Remember this unshakable truth: you are always becoming more like the 5 people you spend the most time with. So ask yourself, do they deserve to shape your future? Are they pulling you forward or holding you back? And then kill the fear of judgment. That weaker version of you, it lives in the shadows of constant worry. What will they think? What will they say? But that fear, it's not external. It's a cage you've built yourself, brick by brick, from imagined criticism and assumed rejection. Here's the truth: the ones who mock, who sneer, who whisper doubts from the sidelines, they're not your judges. They're merely spectators to your journey. Observers, not authorities. And yet, this insidious fear, the fear of being judged, governs countless lives. Ideas stay locked inside. Dreams are pursued with hesitation. Talents remain hidden, like treasures buried beneath shame. And the tragedy isn't just in what you lose, it's in what the world loses. Every time you shrink yourself to avoid disapproval, the world loses a gift it was meant to receive. But what truly paralyzes you isn't their judgment. It's the meaning you assign to it. A stranger's glance becomes a verdict. A colleague's skepticism turns into confirmation of your inadequacy. A family member's concern mutates into proof that you're destined to fail. But none of that is real. Those meanings, they only exist in your mind. So how do you dismantle this fear? You expose it. You face it. You place yourself in situations where judgment is not just possible, but inevitable. And with every exposure, the fear loses its grip. Speak up, even when your voice trembles. Especially when it trembles. That tightness in your throat, that flutter in your stomach, that's not a warning to retreat. That's your signal to step forward. Because courage isn't the absence of fear. It's movement in its presence. Let the words come, even if they shake. Let your voice waver. Let your knees buckle, but stand anyway. Because posture matters. Your body speaks before your mouth does. When you straighten your spine in the face of doubt, when you meet skeptical eyes with unshaken presence, you send a message, not just to others, but to yourself. You say, I belong here. You say, I'm not afraid of being seen. You say, your opinion will not outrank my purpose. This is how transformation begins. It's not in the applause. It's in the execution, the moment you act, even when surrounded by disapproval. When you move forward while others scoff, you prove to yourself that their opinions no longer hold the power you once gave them. Every action you take that moves against the current of consensus does something no affirmation or self-help book ever could. It builds real immunity to judgment. Not theoretical, not imagined, but earned through resistance. Consider Galileo. He didn't just challenge the ideas of his time. He disrupted the very foundations of how people saw the universe. When he stood for heliocentrism, he wasn't simply disagreeing with the status quo. He was confronting centuries of religious authority, cultural dogma, and institutional certainty. The ridicule? Unrelenting. The stakes? Enormous. But Galileo understood something critical. Truth does not need majority approval to be real. It doesn't matter how many people disapprove when what you're standing for is grounded in conviction. History doesn't remember the ones who bowed to popular opinion. It remembers the ones who stood tall when the world demanded they kneel. And that brings us to a vital question. Are you living to be applauded or to be fulfilled? Because these paths occasionally intersect, but far more often, they diverge. The road to authentic achievement frequently runs through valleys of criticism, misunderstanding, and solitude. Why? Because applause is easy to earn when you play it safe. When you do what's expected, when you mirror what's familiar, people nod along. But breakthroughs? True originality? Those rarely come gift-wrapped in applause. If you fear judgment intensely, there's a good chance you believe people are thinking about you far more than they actually are. That's the trap of the spotlight effect. A cognitive illusion that puts you at the center of everyone's universe. Here's the liberating truth. Most people are far too preoccupied with their own lives to spend time scrutinizing yours. They're wrapped in their own doubts, their own insecurities, their own battles. So while you're holding back, worrying what they'll say if you fail, they're not even watching. And even if they do judge you, their opinions are fleeting, their conclusions temporary, if they materialize at all. So ask yourself, would you rather drown in their opinions or sail toward your true north? The first option, it guarantees spiritual death. A life lived through borrowed expectations, shaped by invisible audiences you were never meant to serve. But the second, that's where freedom lives. That's where the thrill of real living begins. Where your voice, your vision, your singular gift to this world gets expressed. Not filtered, not suppressed, but fully lived. Killing the fear of judgment doesn't mean ignoring all feedback or blindly charging ahead. It doesn't mean becoming deaf to wisdom or blind to consequences. What it does mean is learning how to discern, to separate signal from noise. It means knowing the difference between constructive input and irrelevant opinions. It means recognizing when someone's criticism is more about their own insecurities than any real shortcoming of yours. And it means accepting a hard but liberating truth. No significant life has ever been lived without disappointing someone. You're not here to meet everyone's expectations. You're here to live a life that's true, not one that's universally approved. The cage that holds you back. The door has always been unlocked. You're not confined by others' perceptions. You're confined by your fear of them. So step out. Create boldly. Speak truthfully. Live authentically. Yes, judgment will come, but it will pass. People forget. Opinions change. But what remains is the life you chose to live on your own terms. That is the only verdict that truly matters. And yet, even when you escape the fear of judgment, there's another enemy waiting just around the corner, doubt. Doubt is the silent killer. It doesn't scream. It whispers. The weaker version of you listens to doubt, seduced by its familiar voice. You're not ready. You're not worthy. You're not enough. But doubt is a disease, a cancer that eats away at potential from the inside out. And you must treat it like an enemy, not a trusted advisor. Here's the danger. Doubt doesn't arrive with warning signs. It doesn't crash through the door. It sneaks in, dressed like caution, masked as prudence, speaking the language of wisdom. It tells you, wait just a little longer, prepare a little more, gather a bit more evidence. It sounds so reasonable, doesn't it? But that's the deception. Doubt doesn't push you toward obvious self-destruction. It simply delays. It convinces you that inaction is the safest path. That waiting equals wisdom. That hesitation is strategy. And in that quiet delay, your dreams begin to suffocate. So how do you fight back? You move. You act. You create momentum. Because doubt cannot survive in motion. It thrives in stillness. It grows stronger in silence. But when you take bold action, even imperfect action, it crumbles. When doubt whispers, wait, you sprint. When it lists all the ways your business might fail, launch it anyway. When your heart pounds at the idea of speaking your truth, say it louder. Movement disrupts the grip of doubt. And every time you act despite fear, you weaken its hold and strengthen your own. When doubt urges you to shrink back and hide, that's your cue to rise up and roar. Visibility is doubt's kryptonite. The moment you step into the light, showing your work, speaking your truth, standing firm in your convictions, doubt begins to dissolve. It can't survive the clarity of action or the exposure of daylight. It thrives in secrecy, in shadows, in hesitation. But once you shine a light on it, it retreats. Think of the Wright brothers, mocked relentlessly for daring to believe that humans could fly. Experts scoffed. The media dismissed them. Even respected scientists called their vision absurd. But while others laughed, they built. While critics doubted, they tested, failed, and tried again. They didn't just battle their own uncertainty. They battled the collective doubt of an entire era. And yet, they flew. Had they surrendered to doubt, internal or external, the skies might have remained empty for decades longer. Their story isn't unique. This pattern has repeated throughout history. Every great leap once lived in the realm of impossibility until someone refused to be paralyzed by uncertainty. The 4-minute mile, space exploration, breakthroughs in medicine, technology, and social change. None of these were born in safety. All were delivered through storms of doubt and waves of resistance. Now ask yourself honestly, how many miracles in your life have been quietly aborted by doubt? Count them. The business you never launched, the relationship you never pursued, the talent you never cultivated, the message you never shared, the leap you never took. Each one is more than a missed opportunity. It's an alternate version of you that never got to exist. Doubt doesn't only steal outcomes. It steals identity. It buries the boldest parts of you under layers of hesitation and second-guessing. That's its most devastating effect. Not simply what you didn't do, but who you never became. So ask yourself, are you ready to crush the serpent of hesitation? Are you finally prepared to fly? Because it takes more than courage. It takes a complete rewiring of how you view doubt. Stop treating it as a warning bell. Start seeing it as a signpost. Doubt is often proof that you're stretching, evolving, leaving the borders of comfort behind. Its presence doesn't mean stop. It means go, because you're stepping into territory where growth actually lives. Push forward. Push through. You're not just defeating doubt. You're becoming the person doubt was always afraid of. Train yourself to respond to doubt with a single, unwavering reflex. Immediate action. When uncertainty creeps in, don't freeze, move. Do the very thing you're hesitating over. Make bold action your default. Rewire your mind to see doubt not as a red light telling you to halt, but as a green light urging you to accelerate. Let it be the trigger that propels you forward, not the brake that holds you back. This doesn't mean acting recklessly. It doesn't mean skipping preparation or ignoring logic. It means recognizing the moment when preparation becomes a mask for fear, when prudence crosses the line into paralysis, when carefulness disguises itself as cowardice. There's a fine line between getting ready and avoiding risk. Learn to see it, because when you take action, you expose doubt for what it often is, a phantom. The imagined catastrophes your mind conjures rarely come to pass. The monsters that seem so menacing in the dark lose all their power once you flip the light on. And so, it is with doubt. Most of its warnings are illusions, shadows dancing on the wall. Understand this. Your life's direction won't be decided by the opportunities that knock, but by how you handle the doubt that sneaks in right behind them. Will you let hesitation write your story? Or will you move forward anyway? Trembling, uncertain, but still moving? That's the fork in the road. The question is never, will you face doubt? The question is, what will you do when it comes? And the answer, the only answer, is this: decide. Decide who you will be. Then take action that aligns with that decision. Let doubt scream in the background if it must, but don't let it slow your steps. Build your wings on the way down. Keep climbing. Keep flying. Victory belongs to the one who perseveres. The weak version of you gives up too soon. It misreads temporary resistance as permanent rejection. It sees difficulty as a sign to turn back, not as a test to push through. But understand this: greatness has never belonged to the quick. It belongs to the committed, to the ones who continue after the applause fades, to the ones who show up even when the results don't, to the ones who endure long after motivation disappears. In a world obsessed with instant wins, we've forgotten the old truths. That mastery takes time, that achievement requires grind, and that perseverance is the silent builder of empires. We worship overnight success stories, yet ignore the years of quiet effort that built the stage. We admire the view from the summit without honoring the brutal climb that made it possible. But you must not forget, because the moment you stop expecting the journey to be easy is the moment you become unbreakable. So push forward. And don't forget to subscribe to Mindset Daily, because the climb is long, but you never have to do it alone. The true determinant of success isn't talent, intelligence, or luck. It's something far less glamorous, yet infinitely more powerful. The sheer refusal to quit, especially when quitting feels like the logical thing to do. So how do you wield perseverance like a weapon? You make a vow so strong that it becomes the backbone of your character. You commit to outlasting every storm, every setback, every delay. Let it be your unbreakable promise that when others fall away, grow tired, or give in, you will still be standing. Remember this: problems endure only as long as your persistence is weaker than theirs. The moment your determination outweighs the resistance, the barrier begins to break. Obstacles don't appear to stop you. They appear to ask you one question: are you worthy of what lies beyond me? Hold your ground when the winds roar and the skies turn black. The fiercest storms serve a purpose. They sift the committed from the casual. When others run for cover, the resolute learn to root themselves deeper to become immovable. That kind of strength doesn't come from avoiding adversity. It's forged by facing it, by developing an inner anchor that holds no matter how violent the outer chaos becomes. Advance even when your feet ache, even when the road feels endless. Pain, whether physical or emotional, is not a stop sign. It's a signal, feedback to manage, not a reason to retreat. Those who rise to greatness understand. Endurance is not the absence of pain. It's the willingness to walk forward with it. The ability to move forward in spite of discomfort is one of the most reliable predictors of lasting success. Sadly, most people give up too soon, often when they are inches from the finish line. They confuse temporary difficulty with permanent failure, not realizing that breakthrough often hides behind just one more push. Think of the miner who drills 99 feet into the earth, then quits, unaware that the gold vein lay only 1 foot further. His treasure remains forever untouched, not because it didn't exist, but because he stopped too soon. So, ask yourself this: will you be the one who turns back just before the miracle? Or will you be the one who presses forward when it's hardest, when it hurts the most, when it truly counts? Because the moment you choose to keep going, that's the moment most never reach. Will you really allow a single no to erase your destiny? One closed door, one rejection, one failed attempt. Will that be enough to stop you? Understand this clearly. The universe doesn't hand greatness freely. It tests your resolve with rejection, with failure, and with delay. These aren't punishments. They're prerequisites. They're the gates through which only the truly committed may pass. Think of every resistance not as a warning sign, but as a proving ground. Each obstacle you face is asking, how badly do you want this? Are you willing to endure discomfort, to face setbacks, to persist long after others are bowed out? Or will you decide, right here and now, that absolutely nothing, no setback, no opinion, no failure, has the authority to make you quit? This moment of decision matters. When you declare that nothing can stop you, you sign a contract with yourself. Not a casual agreement, but an unbreakable vow. You shift from occasionally choosing to persevere into becoming a person whose identity is defined by persistence. You don't just try, you are a perseverer. To continue becomes as instinctive as breathing. The weak turn back when storms rise. They abandon ship at the first sign of damage. But the strong? They keep steering, patching the cracks while pushing forward. The extraordinary? They understand that the storm is not a detour. It's part of the path. It is essential. It shapes you. It strengthens you. Your legacy won't be defined by how brightly you started. It will be defined by how relentlessly you continued. Because when talent runs out, when luck fades, and when motivation disappears, perseverance is what remains. It's the fire that forges dreams into reality. Victory does not belong to the most gifted. It belongs to those who simply refuse to quit. So choose. Choose to be one of them. Because vision without action, that's just a hallucination. Dreaming is easy. Building is rare. The weaker version of you dreams boldly, but moves timidly. A vivid vision without steps to bring it to life becomes a beautiful deception. A trap. Your mind is an extraordinary architect. It can design detailed futures with astonishing precision. The business empire, the healthy body, the work of art, you can see it, feel it, almost reach out and touch it in your mind. But here's the danger. The comfort of that vision can fool you. It makes you feel like progress has already been made, even when nothing has truly begun. Middle rehearsal has its place, but it's not the finish line. It's the spark. If left alone, that spark dies in the quiet suffocation of inaction. So I ask you, what dream have you rehearsed enough? When will you build what you see? What step will you take today? So many confuse intention with implementation. They speak with passion, sometimes even eloquence about what they will do someday. But that day never seems to arrive. It retreats endlessly into the distance, always just out of reach. They surround themselves with quotes, collect inspiration like trophies, yet never convert it into perspiration. And the result? Dreams that quietly grow old, collecting dust, until they harden into regrets. So how do you bridge this critical gap between the world you envision and the one you actually live in? The answer is not mysterious. It's painfully simple. Break the dream into specific daily actions and execute them with relentless, almost military precision. Big visions are beautiful, but they're also intimidating. Their sheer size can paralyze. The weight of the whole thing feels impossible. But once you dismantle that vision into small, actionable steps, measurable, immediate, concrete, it becomes something you can conquer. The epic novel? It becomes today's 500 words. The thriving business? It becomes today's 3 outreach calls. The transformation you seek? It starts with today's choices, what you eat, how you move, how you think. This is daily discipline, and it demands that you begin treating promises to yourself with the same gravity you give promises to others. Think about it. You wouldn't casually bail on your boss. You wouldn't miss a meeting with a client just because you didn't feel like it. Yet how often do you cancel on your own future? Extend that same professional courtesy to your dreams. Schedule non-negotiable appointments with your vision. Guard them fiercely from distractions, from excuses, from the tyranny of the urgent but unimportant. Look to Florence Nightingale. She didn't just dream of cleaner hospitals or speak about reform in idealistic tones. She stepped into the filth of wartime wards during the Crimean War. She rolled up her sleeves. She scrubbed floors, changed bandages, tracked data. Her vision was clear, but her execution was gritty. She didn't wait for ideal conditions. She created change through daily, disciplined action. Nightingale didn't only treat the wounded. She used her data to reshape policy. She didn't merely hope for reform. She engineered it. Her legacy wasn't built on lofty intentions, but on repeated actions aligned with a greater vision. So ask yourself, are you still waiting for the perfect moment, or are you finally ready to make one? Because the future is forged not in theory, but in what you do today. Her approach didn't just inspire. It produced results. Florence Nightingale's relentless precision reduced mortality rates from a staggering 42% down to just 2%. Not by wishing for better outcomes, but by designing them through disciplined, methodical execution. This is the often overlooked truth. Your dream doesn't care how beautiful it looks when you imagine it. It's not impressed by vision boards or poetic ambition. It wants evidence. It demands sweat. Proof comes not through declarations, but through deliberate, consistent effort. The universe doesn't respond to your intentions. It responds to your actions. The market doesn't reward ideas. It rewards implementation, finished products, delivered value, measurable outcomes. History doesn't remember those who merely imagined world-changing ideas. It remembers those who gave them form and force in the real world. This is the great divider, the implementation gap. It's the invisible chasm between those who imagine and those who execute. Ordinary and extraordinary people often share the same dreams. The difference lies in the hands, not just the mind. One group envisions, the other builds, brick by brick, day by day. They understand that while vision gives you a direction, only action gives you distance. So you must ask yourself, will you live as a dreamer or as a doer? It's not a poetic question. It's a mirror. The dreamer enjoys the emotional high of possibility without the sacrifice of discipline. The doer trades short-term comfort for long-term fulfillment. The dreamer speaks with flair at dinner parties about what could be. The doer lets results speak on their behalf. Will your vision remain a ghost, unrealized, untouchable, passing through time with no impact? Or will it take on flesh and bone? Because a dream brought to life, a business launched, a book published, a relationship renewed, has weight. It carries influence. It can transform not just your life, but the lives of others. And perhaps most importantly, it can endure beyond you. This isn't a one-time decision. The battle between hallucination and creation is fought daily in the small, quiet moments. When the alarm rings, do you rise or snooze? When the hard conversation looms, do you face it or flee? When discomfort knocks, do you grow or retreat? These seemingly insignificant choices accumulate. Over time, they become the difference between a life imagined and a life fully lived. Give your vision the gift of existence. Don't just admire it in the sanctuary of your imagination. Bring it to life through disciplined, consistent action. Conception is only the beginning. Creation is what gives it meaning. The world isn't suffering from a shortage of beautiful dreams. What it desperately needs are dreamers with the courage and commitment to build, to turn visions into ventures, hopes into habits, ideas into impact. And to do that, you must destroy one of the most dangerous habits of all, waiting. Waiting is seductive. It cloaks itself in logic. We say we're being responsible, thoughtful, strategic. But in truth, waiting often hides fear. We stall not because we lack time, but because we doubt ourselves. We postpone under the illusion that the perfect moment is still out there, just around the corner. We wait for more information, more clarity, more courage. We convince ourselves that tomorrow will offer better tools, better timing, or better circumstances. But when tomorrow arrives, it comes wearing the same disguise. New excuses, fresh distractions, a familiar sense of hesitation. And so we wait again. Another day lost. Another step deferred. This is how dreams die quietly. Not from lack of potential, but from paralysis by postponement. What looks like careful preparation is often procrastination in disguise. What feels like patience may be fear wearing a wise man's robe. And every time you choose to wait, you quietly vote against your own future. Declare war on this mindset. Replace hesitation with execution. Refuse to let your dreams gather dust in the attic of your imagination. The runway of your life is clear. Stop circling above it. Land, build, begin. Because the difference between a life that merely dreams and a life that delivers is not found in talent, resources, or luck. It's found in the decision to act, to start where you are with what you have, and to keep going despite the imperfections. So I challenge you, what vision are you still sheltering? What masterpiece have you hidden behind the excuse of not yet? It's time to stop waiting and start creating. And if you're ready to live your vision, not just dream it, then subscribe to Mindset Daily, where action becomes the default and delay meets its end. We keep telling ourselves we need more knowledge, more resources, more confidence, more clarity. But when tomorrow comes, it brings not the certainty we hoped for, but a fresh batch of excuses. And so we delay again, trapped in a cycle of endless preparation. This is the illusion of progress, the self-deception that keeps our greatest ambitions grounded, circling in a holding pattern, never cleared for takeoff. What looks like strategic patience is often just fear dressed in rational language. We claim to be preparing, analyzing, waiting for perfect conditions. But deep down, we're avoiding the uncomfortable truth. We fear uncertainty. We fear falling short. And so we cling to the false safety of not starting at all. But make no mistake, this hesitation has a price. It quietly drains your potential, silences your talents, and postpones the life you were meant to live. How do you break this destructive loop? You start, not when you feel ready, but before. Because readiness is a myth, a comforting lie that convinces us to wait just a little longer. But the truth? No one feels fully prepared when beginning anything significant. That feeling of certainty you're waiting for? It comes after action, not before it. Confidence is not the prerequisite for starting. It is the result of doing. Your skills sharpen through experience, not speculation. Begin while the doubts are loud, while your hands shake a little. Perfectionists freeze, waiting for every variable to align, demanding a level of assurance that reality never offers. Meanwhile, the achievers act. They move forward with imperfect plans, knowing the only way to improve is through contact with the real world. It's through the act of doing that answers emerge, not through endless thinking. Clarity is not found by standing still. It arrives step by step, like a mountain trail revealing itself only as you walk it. Consider Alexander Graham Bell. While others were still locked in debate and theory, he was building. While they drafted blueprints, he tested reeds, adjusted coils, and tuned transmitters. He didn't wait for perfect certainty. He created progress through action. His famous words, Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you, might never have been heard had he waited for all the questions to be answered before beginning. Let that be your guide. Movement breeds clarity. The fog of uncertainty lifts not by standing still, but by taking the next step. Each action illuminates what comes next. You don't need the whole map to begin the journey, just enough light for the next few feet. The answers you're searching for won't magically appear by thinking harder or waiting longer. They're not hiding somewhere deep in your mind, waiting for the perfect insight. No, they're embedded in motion, revealed only through the act of doing. Action is the great clarifier. It's what transforms abstract dreams into tangible progress. The universe responds not to good intentions, but to forward momentum. When you begin to move, something powerful happens. Coincidences no longer feel random. Connections emerge where before there were only gaps. Resources you once believed were out of reach start appearing. This isn't mysticism. It's the natural reward for engaging with the world. Opportunity follows those who are already in motion. So let me ask you, how much longer will you wait? How many more days will you give away to hesitation? How many chances have already slipped through your fingers while you were getting ready? If you were to take honest inventory, count the goals still untouched, the growth still undone, what would the numbers say? And here's the harsh truth. Life doesn't wait. Death doesn't send a warning before it arrives. It doesn't offer a heads up that now is the time to finally write that book, launch that business, or speak that truth. It comes unannounced, and in its wake, it leaves behind cemeteries full of potential, unwritten stories, untapped greatness, unspoken love, all waiting for a perfect moment that never showed up. Dreams don't vanish in a blaze. They wither slowly. They decay from neglect. The fire that once burned bright becomes a flicker, then smoke, then silence. So I ask you, will you let your dream drift into oblivion, or will you seize today with everything inside you, with the hunger of destiny and the urgency of purpose? Make no mistake, purpose must be violent, not in destruction, but in force. It must be strong enough to shatter procrastination, to bulldoze resistance. Destiny must be hunted, not passively awaited. You chase it with intensity, with urgency, with refusal to let another day pass untouched. The habit of waiting dies now. Not next week, not when you feel more certain, today. Time is ticking. Your life is not on pause. The world isn't slowing down. The only moment you truly have is this one. And as you take that step, remember, character is not forged in applause. It's not built under spotlights or formed through external praise. Real character takes shape in silence. It's hammered in solitude, refined in the hours no one sees, in the battles no one applauds, in the nights where only you know what it took to keep going. We live in a time where achievement is often measured by how many likes we collect, how many followers we gain, and how much attention our actions receive. It's a performative culture, one where public validation has become the currency of worth. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, we've been conditioned to believe that if no one sees our effort, it doesn't matter. That if there's no applause, there's no point. But this is a dangerous illusion. This deception breeds generations addicted to affirmation. People who obsess over documenting their journey rather than deeply living it. We end up curating our transformation instead of actually undergoing it. And in doing so, we sacrifice the very depth required to build something truly lasting. But real character? It's forged in obscurity. It's not created in the spotlight, but in the shadows. It's in those quiet moments when no one is watching, when there is no reward, no recognition, no audience, only your inner resolve. It takes shape in the cold pre-dawn hours when your bed pleads with you to stay, but you rise anyway. It's built during the extra reps at the gym, long after others have left. It forms in the hard decisions, the ethical lines you refuse to cross, even when no one would ever know. So how do you strengthen that kind of character? You remain faithful when there is no promise of reward. You commit to the process even when it feels thankless. The amateur needs constant praise, compensation, or reassurance. But the master? The master works for the work itself. He finds fulfillment in the pursuit of excellence, in becoming the kind of person who shows up fully, no matter who's watching. This quiet loyalty to purpose over praise is what separates those who leave a temporary impression from those who leave a lasting legacy. So build when there is no applause. Lay the bricks when no one is cheering, because the foundation of greatness is always hidden. It's the unseen hours, the uncelebrated grind, that ultimately decides the magnitude of your future success. What the world eventually sees is only as strong as what you build in silence. Think of Abraham Lincoln. Before the world celebrated his leadership, he endured defeat after crushing defeat. He failed in business. He lost multiple elections. He faced unimaginable personal loss. But through it all, he kept building, inwardly, silently, without applause. His story reminds us that the depth of your foundation determines the height of your achievement. Yet each of Lincoln's private losses quietly sculpted him into the leader who would one day hold a fractured nation together. Before he ever stepped into the White House, Abraham Lincoln walked through the fires of deep personal suffering. Business ventures that failed, repeated electoral defeats, the heartbreak of losing the woman he loved, and even a complete nervous breakdown. These weren't just setbacks. They were crucibles. In the dim glow of candlelight, he taught himself the law, trained his mind, and disciplined his character, all without recognition, all in silence. These private struggles, these invisible nights of sorrow and self-doubt, weren't distractions from his destiny. They were the very tools that forged it. Every hardship chipped away at what was unworthy, until only the enduring structure of strength remained. That's why history doesn't just remember his policies, it reveres his perseverance. And what about your darkest hours? What if they, too, aren't punishments but preparations? What if they're sculpting you, not to break you, but to build you? These low moments, the ones without applause or affirmation, are the clearest mirrors of who you are when stripped of praise. So ask yourself honestly, will you crumble when no one claps? Will you stop showing up just because no one's watching? Or will you keep building, brick by brick, in the dark, with nothing but faith in your purpose to guide you? Will the silence of recognition kill your momentum? Or will you draw strength from something deeper, something that doesn't fade when the spotlight does? Will you only push forward when you're praised? Or will you grind through the night when the world sleeps? That single question, what keeps you going when no one notices, will expose the true engine of your drive. Because external motivation, that's fragile. It fluctuates with mood, with weather, with circumstance. But internal motivation? That's a fire no storm can extinguish. It's steady. It's relentless. External motivation makes you dependent. Internal motivation makes you dangerous in the best possible way. So what will you be when the pressure rises? Wax that melts when the heat becomes too much? Or gold, refined, resilient, radiant, because it's been through the flame? Wax cannot withstand the same heat that refines gold. It softens, loses its shape, and eventually becomes unrecognizable. But remember, it's not the fire that changes, it's the material that responds. The same adversity that crumbles one person will forge another. It's not about how intense the storm is. It's about what you're made of. The world is full of people who shine brightly for a moment, when everything is easy, when the conditions are perfect. But how many can still shine when the spotlight is gone, when the applause fades and the crowd disperses? Rare, indeed, are those who develop the strength to produce their own light in the absence of external affirmation. And that's exactly what you must cultivate. Don't build your character for display, to impress onlookers, or to fit fleeting trends. Build it for resilience, for those long, lonely nights when no one's watching, when you must keep going because quitting is not an option. Build it not to be admired, but to endure. True greatness doesn't happen on stage. It happens backstage, in the silence, in the repetition, in the quiet battles won far from public view. Let others chase recognition. Let them build shiny images for likes and applause. You, however, must build something far more lasting: integrity, discipline, and inner strength. Because when the world starts shaking, image cracks, but character stands. And the deeper you've been tested in silence, the higher you'll rise when the light finally finds you. Now consider this. Energy flows where your attention goes. In a world that never stops shouting, notifications, obligations, distractions at every turn, your most valuable asset isn't your intelligence. It's not even your time. It's your attention. The scattered version of you drifts through life, reactive, constantly hijacked by the urgent, never anchoring to what's truly important. But the focused version of you, that one can move mountains. Think of your attention as the currency of your existence. Where you spend it decides what flourishes and what dies in your life. This isn't abstract theory, it's reality. An undisciplined mind is like an untended garden. The weeds don't ask permission, they simply take over. Potential gets buried under distractions. But a focused mind turns practice into mastery. A violinist fully present for 2 hours achieves more than someone distracted for 5. Precision always beats volume when your mind is all in. So ask yourself, what are you feeding with your attention today? What are you starving? Because what you focus on will define the life you build tomorrow. Nikola Tesla understood this principle with a clarity that set him apart from his peers. While others spent their time entangled in social obligations, casual entertainment, or the distractions of the day, Tesla retreated into deep solitude. He immersed himself fully in his work, not for a moment, but for seasons at a time. His breakthroughs, which reshaped the future, were not the byproduct of superior intellect alone. They were forged through the sheer intensity of his focus. Tesla once remarked that his genius was directly tied to his ability to channel attention with surgical precision. He believed that the mind reached its sharpest edge not in noise, but in stillness, not in the crowd, but in solitude. And this timeless truth does not apply only to science. It extends to every meaningful area of life: relationships, creativity, and personal evolution. Consider this. Most marriages do not collapse because of one catastrophic moment. They dissolve slowly, almost invisibly, through chronic inattention. Likewise, books remain unwritten not because their authors lacked the time, but because their focus was constantly fragmented. Personal transformation escapes so many, not due to a lack of potential, but because their energy is spread too thin across too many distractions. So how do we reclaim our attention in a world so eager to steal it? It begins with ruthless prioritization. You must face an uncomfortable truth. You cannot do everything. Your calendar, more than your words, reveals your real values. Every yes you offer is simultaneously a no to something else. The only question is whether you make these trade-offs consciously or by default. Start choosing with intention. Guard your focus the way a king guards his most sacred treasure. Build boundaries around your time. Non-negotiable, clearly defined. Carve out sacred blocks of deep work where nothing and no one can intrude. Treat these hours as appointments with your future. And yes, you will have to disappoint people. You'll have to say no to some invitations, some expectations, even some good things. But doing so now, in small ways, will save you from massive regrets later. Would you rather feel a moment of discomfort today, or a lifetime of wondering what could have been? In the end, your future will not be built by how many tasks you start, but by how deeply you engage with what matters most. Keep choosing growth over distraction, purpose over convenience, and excellence over popularity. The quality of your future is not a mystery. It's directly linked to how intentionally you channel your energy today. Every moment of focused attention, though seemingly small, compounds over time like interest in a high-yield account. These micro-deposits of effort accumulate into mastery. Meanwhile, the scattered mind spins in circles, always busy, yet never moving forward, perpetually stuck at the starting line. So when you feel resistance, the pull to scroll, to delay, to drift away from the task that truly matters, pause. That's the critical moment. That discomfort, it's not a sign to retreat. It's your cue to lean in. Because the ability to redirect a wandering mind back to meaningful work is like a muscle. It grows stronger the more you use it. Ask yourself every single day, where's my attention going? Not where you say it's going, not what you intend to prioritize, but where does your attention actually land? The honest answer might surprise you. And if that gap between your declared values and your real focus makes you uncomfortable, good. That discomfort is awareness. And awareness is the first step toward alignment. So now the question becomes, will you allow your limited, precious energy to scatter across meaningless distractions, diluted by the trivial? Or will you gather it, like a beam of sunlight through a magnifying glass, and direct it deliberately into the vital few pursuits that define a life of meaning and impact? That decision isn't made once. It's made daily, hourly, sometimes moment by moment. And that's why your attention remains the most powerful force you possess. Direct it with purpose. Now, shift with me to a deeper form of energy, emotional energy. Because even the most focused mind can be trapped if it's shackled to the past. Forgiveness is freedom. Resentment, on the other hand, is a prison of your own making. Its walls are crafted from memories you've replayed too many times. And with each bitter recollection, you reinforce those walls, brick by brick. The weaker version of you sits inside that cell, endlessly polishing old grievances, mistaking this obsession for strength. You convince yourself that rehearsing pain protects you, that staying vigilant keeps you safe from future harm. But if you look closely, you'll see the truth. Those chains aren't protecting you. They're binding you. And worst of all, that unforgiveness doesn't imprison the person who hurt you. It binds you to them. Through invisible tethers, you carry them with you into every room, every decision, every silent moment. The time has come to ask, will you stay chained to a past you cannot change? Or will you cut the cord and step into the light of what's still possible? Let this be the beginning of that release. Let this be the moment you reclaim your energy and your future. While you may picture yourself as the warden, holding the keys to justice and control, the reality is far more sobering. You are the one locked inside. Each moment you spend in this emotional dungeon is not just lost, it's stolen from your future. The person who harmed you, they've likely moved on. They sleep soundly while you revisit the moment of injury, replaying the scene like a looped recording. You sip daily from the poisoned well of the past, believing the bitterness keeps you strong. But does it? The universe works on a principle that feels almost unfair. Clinging to injustice harms not the offender, but you. The weight of unforgiveness compresses your potential. It narrows your vision. It diverts the fuel meant for your growth into preserving old battlegrounds where the war has long since ended. You become a guardian of ghosts, defending ruins that no longer serve your future. Consider Nelson Mandela, a man who spent 27 years imprisoned under South Africa's brutal apartheid regime. If anyone had earned the right to carry hatred, it was him. The walls of his cell could have become the walls of his heart. But upon his release, Mandela made a choice that changed history. As I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, he said, "I knew that if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison." That decision wasn't weakness. It was strategic brilliance. It wasn't surrender. It was sovereignty. By refusing to be consumed by a rage that many would have called justified, Mandela didn't just liberate himself. He opened a door for an entire nation to follow. Forgiveness, then, is not about excusing the inexcusable. It's not about erasing justice or pretending the pain didn't happen. It's about choosing not to let the offender own your emotional life any longer. It's about reclaiming control over your inner world, over your peace, your power, your presence. So ask yourself, who still has the keys to your internal prison? And when will you finally walk out for good? The offense itself may never be forgotten, and perhaps it remains, objectively, unpardonable. But that does not mean you must continue living as its prisoner. Your liberation does not depend on the offender's remorse. It begins the moment you acknowledge this truth. Though the wound was real, your continued suffering is optional. Start by facing the full gravity of what happened. Don't minimize it. Don't sanitize the pain. Authentic healing begins with honesty. If the harm was deep, admit it. If the betrayal broke something in you, say so. Feel the pain, not to dwell, but to confront. Because only what is faced can be released. And here's the truth most avoid. The longer you carry this burden, the more it quietly erodes your strength. It robs you not just of peace, but of potential. The ones who hurt you cannot restore what was lost. They may never apologize. They may never understand the impact. But you can choose to stop the bleeding. You can choose to say, "This ends with me." Forgiveness rarely arrives in a single dramatic moment. It is not a one-time proclamation, but a process, a practice, a commitment that must often be renewed. When old memories resurface, when bitterness tries to tighten its grip again, you remind yourself gently but firmly, "I let this go, not because they deserve it, but because I deserve peace." That is the heart of it. Forgiveness is not about absolution for others. It is a gift you give yourself. And make no mistake, this is no act of weakness. It is among the most courageous acts a person can undertake. It demands strength to release what has defined your pain. It takes boldness to reclaim energy once tied to resentment and channel it toward your future. Ask yourself, at the end of your life, when you look back, what will you see? Will it be years spent preserving pain like a sacred artifact, returning to the same emotional battlefield again and again? Or will it be a life marked by the audacity to let go, creating room for healing, for purpose, for love? Every moment spent nursing resentment is a moment stolen from your destiny. The question is not whether others deserve forgiveness. The question is, do you deserve the freedom that comes with releasing them? Will you stay bound to the story of what was done to you? Or will you choose, as Mandela did, to walk through the gates of forgiveness? Not because they earned it, but because you are finally ready to live? The keys to your freedom? They've been in your hand all along. Kill the need for validation. That insatiable thirst for approval. It's one of humanity's oldest addictions. The weaker version of you revolves entire days around it, constructing narratives designed to impress. You rehearse humble brags, craft clever ways to slip in accomplishments, hoping each interaction lands like a hook catching admiration. A compliment, an impressed nod, each delivers a brief hit of dopamine that feels like fulfillment. But beneath that fleeting high, a deeper question lingers. Am I enough? Here lies the trap. This kind of validation is counterfeit currency. No matter how much of it you collect, it never satisfies. Why? Because it's designed to vanish. External approval evaporates as quickly as it arrives, leaving you emptier and hungrier than before. So the cycle begins again. Achieve, showcase, receive a fleeting reward, then return to the pursuit, slightly more desperate than the last time. Freedom begins when you break this loop. True strength, the kind that cannot be shaken, emerges when you no longer depend on the world's applause to feel complete. The person who has detached from a need for external validation becomes powerful in a way few ever experience. They choose paths not for praise, but for purpose. They act not to impress, but to impact. Their truth is not filtered through public opinion, but forged in quiet integrity. They are unshakable, not because they are loud, but because they are anchored. Breaking this addiction starts with a courageous act, self-confrontation. Ask yourself, without flinching, why am I really doing this? Am I building because the work itself matters? Or because I want to be seen building? Am I helping because I care? Or because it gives me an image to protect? Are the goals I'm chasing mine? Or are they trophies meant for display at social gatherings? Commit to values that would still matter if no one ever knew you held them. Build skills so strong they don't need to be showcased to prove their worth. Create not for applause, but because the act of creation aligns with who you are. And when your identity is rooted in purpose rather than perception, something remarkable happens. The opinions of others lose their grip. They can't pull you off course because your compass points inward, not outward. Remember the anonymous builders of history. Craftsmen who laid the stones of cathedrals they would never live to see completed. They didn't build for fame. They built for faith, for function, for legacy. Their names may be forgotten, but their impact remains. And that is real power. The early architects of Rome laid foundations that still stand strong more than 2,000 years later. They labored without spotlights, without smartphones, without the dream of viral fame. No camera ever captured their dedication. No social media ever amplified their names. Their validation didn't come from applause. It came from integrity, from their unwavering commitment to purpose, from excellence pursued for its own sake. The work was enough, and this, perhaps, is one of the most practical and powerful lessons they left us. Begin by cultivating private excellence, the kind that doesn't require an audience to thrive. Sweep behind the furniture that no one will ever move. Write journal entries no one will read with the same attention and sincerity you'd bring to a best-selling book. Practice your craft in solitude with the devotion of a master. Not because anyone's watching, but because that's who you are. Then take it a step further. Initiate a validation fast. Withhold the urge to broadcast every milestone. Let your accomplishments breathe in silence. Delay the dopamine hit of public praise. Sit with the unease that rises when no likes, no comments, no applause arrives. That discomfort, it's withdrawal from the addictive cycle of external approval. Feel it, understand it, and then redirect that energy. Instead of chasing instant feedback, turn inward and dive deeper into your work, your relationships, your character. Create from the roots, not the surface. Build a life of substance, not performance. And something almost paradoxical will happen. The less you need validation, the more of it will come, genuinely, quietly, and without effort. Because people can feel it. They can tell when someone is trying to impress versus when someone is simply being real. They sense the depth of someone who's doing the work for truth, not trophies. And over time, this distinction becomes unmistakable. Respect earned this way has weight. It lingers, it lasts, and it doesn't depend on algorithms or applause. But be patient. This shift doesn't happen overnight. The addiction to validation runs deep. It's etched into your wiring, fed to you from early childhood. Recognition became reward. Approval became permission. And now, letting go of that pattern can feel like letting go of your very identity. But that's exactly what transformation requires. So ask yourself, can you be excellent without an audience? Can you stand tall when no one sees? Can you keep building when there's no applause, no feedback, only the quiet echo of your purpose guiding you forward? Because that's where the foundation of greatness is laid, in the unseen, uncelebrated hours. Let that be enough. But with every intentional choice to act from integrity rather than from the need to impress, the grip of external validation begins to loosen. Slowly, quietly, its power fades. So ask yourself honestly, are you building to impress the world, or are you building to last? Are you constructing a life rich with substance, or simply curating an image designed to win approval? What would you still do with the same level of passion and excellence if no one ever applauded again? What would you keep fighting for, even if the spotlight never returned? These are the questions that reveal your truth. Because when you finally kill the craving for validation, something remarkable happens. You begin to live, not as a performer, but as a creator. You show up, not for recognition, but for contribution. And in that authenticity, you unlock a form of power no external approval could ever give. It's the strength that comes from knowing your value is intrinsic, not conditional. The time to claim that power is not tomorrow. It's now. The weaker version of you will whisper later. Wait, prepare a little more. But the champion in you knows better. That voice doesn't wait. It roars now, because time is the great equalizer. It shows no favoritism. It doesn't care how good your intentions are. It only responds to what you do. So how do you rise? You act today. You move today. You build today. No perfect moment will ever arrive. Only this imperfect but powerful one exists. This exact breath, this very second. Joan of Arc, a teenage girl who defied fear, didn't wait for permission. She didn't wait for validation from those who claimed to be wiser. She saw her destiny and charged into it. And because she acted while others hesitated, her legacy was born. What if you did the same? Your future isn't waiting somewhere in the distance. It's being shaped right now, in the decisions you make this very moment. So I ask you again, what are you still waiting for? Kill hesitation. Silence the excuses. Strike with clarity and conviction. The clock is ticking, and whether you realize it or not, history is already watching. If you're ready to rise beyond your limitations, crush the lies of doubt, and finally claim the life you were meant to live, begin now. Don't ask for permission. Don't look for perfect timing. The weaker self will always find reasons to delay. The stronger self, it chooses. Decide. Step forward. Become who you were always meant to be. Wishing you strength, purpose, and unshakable courage on your journey. Stay healthy. Stay inspired. And don't forget to subscribe to Mindset Daily for more transformative insights.